started here. Our next up, we have Cary Szafranski. Did I say that correct?
Yep, you did.
Excellent. Associate City Solicitor, City of Springfield. Cary received her BA in English from the University of New Hampshire and her Juris Doctor, JD, from Rutgers Law School, and will receive an MBA, Master's of Business Administration, from UMASS Amherst, Isenberg School of Management in December 2020. She was an assistant news editor for the Wall Street Journal before becoming the law clerk for the Massachusetts Superior Court. She served as an assistant district attorney for Hampden County for 9 years before becoming associate city solicitor of the city of Springfield in 2018. Cary, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
So we have a few questions today. First of which would be, can you share your career path with us, please?
Well, you pretty much just described it, but I started off in journalism, and I really enjoyed that career, but that career kind of took me from Massachusetts, where I'm a native. I grew up in West Springfield, in Springfield, and journalism is really evolving recently in the past, couple of decades. Everything's kind of going electronic. So where I had a job working in Chicopee, I ended up having to transfer to New York and New Jersey as they closed down newsrooms and things like that. So eventually I found myself in New Jersey and went to law school while I worked at the Wall Street Journal. And when I got that law degree, I came back to Springfield. I worked clerking for some judges in Springfield, which basically means writing opinions, doing research for them, writing jury instructions. A really great first job for any lawyer. And then I worked for the DA's office for almost a decade. And that's exactly what you see on TV. I was a prosecutor, putting bad guys in jail. And that's a really interesting job and a great way to get courtroom experience. And now what I do is I work for the city of Springfield. I work in City Hall. I'm a lawyer and the city is my client. So anytime the city gets sued, which happens fairly often in all different ways, I might be the person assigned to the case. There are a number of us lawyers that work here at City Hall, maybe 10 or 15, but I might represent the city, and the city is my only client, or the people who work for the city. And that mostly means civil cases, and just defending the city and representing their interests.
Excellent. So, having gone through your career, a number of different types of jobs you've had, what have been some of your success habits that you've had along the way, in each and every one of them, to be able to get to the point you are today?
To be a good lawyer and pretty much any job, a good success habit is to obviously be organized, write everything down. And one thing I've learned over the years is to ask questions. Obviously, you don't want to ask questions that you can answer yourself pretty easily, but new lawyers and new people on any job might be afraid to ask questions for fear of looking stupid. And my advice would be, a good success habit is to, if you really don't know how to do something, to ask for help, and show up, be on time. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want. If you feel like you want to move in a different direction in your position or want a different position, don't be afraid to explore those options.
Absolutely. So with all that being said, with success habits, what are some of the mistakes you've made along the way on your career that you've learned from, if any?
I think one of the mistakes I personally have made is doing what I thought I should do instead of what I wanted to do. And to give you an example of that, when I started college, which was a long time ago for me, but I was a math major, and I was good at math, so I thought I should do that and get a job as a math teacher or an actuary or an engineer maybe, but I really didn't enjoy it. And it took me a long time to kind of come to the conclusion that I should do what I love, which is which was an English degree for me. And not to say you shouldn't think about, am I going to get a job with this degree? Certainly that should be a factor in anyone's career plans, but I followed what I loved, and it did lead to a number of different careers for me, and success. So I would say, think about, you want to think about, can I make a living at this, and that sort of thing. That should always factor into your decisions, but don't do something just because everyone else is telling you you should do it.
Excellent. I agree wholeheartedly. So, having gone through the success habits and mistakes, in your role, whether it was in the courtroom or your current role as a lawyer for the city, it takes a lot of leadership in a number of different respects. So what do you think it takes to become a good leader as a whole?
I think to be a good leader, you should lead by example. If you want people who are looking up to you to, or your peers, to behave a certain way, you should model that behavior. Also, I think if you are leading a team or working as part of a group, it's important to set clear expectations. It's hard to please somebody who doesn't make their expectations clear. So if you want to be successful as part of a team, or if you are the team's leader, I think being very upfront about what you expect of people is really important, and it makes people more comfortable telling you what they need as well. So it's a give and take. So I think those are very important things that make a good leader.
Absolutely. What are some of the challenges you think the next generation will face as they head into their professional careers?
I think a big challenge right now is that there's a lot of pressure over the past, I don't know, decade or 2 decades for everybody to go to college. And certainly a lot of people should go to college and want to go to college, but there are many careers where a trade program might be more appropriate, and what the student desires. And I think that there's a little too much pressure on students to go to college these days. There are certainly students out there who would rather pursue a trade or some other type of career that doesn't require college, and that's totally okay. I think the trend has been every student needs to go to college, and we kind of see that here in Springfield, and that's great if that's what people want. But certainly, if someone chooses to pursue a different path, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that sort of tension can be hard for students sometimes.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So if you can go back to when you were 16, what advice would you give yourself?
I think if I could go back and talk to my 16-year-old self, I would tell me not to be afraid to try things. I think fear sometimes holds people back. And, when I was 16, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I thought that I was too shy or nervous to be someone who could walk into a courtroom and give an opening argument. And I didn't go down that path right away. I did something else, which I loved. I loved my first career in journalism, but it was a little more, it tends to draw more introverted people. As far as working in a newsroom, I was an editor as opposed to a reporter. But as I got older and I went to law school and followed that path, I learned that I love that, and I feel like I'm good at it. And I really surprised myself, and I wish I hadn't been too scared to try that when I was 16. So, and that's the time to try things, like if you try something when you're 16 and you fail, that's okay, move on to something else, So I think that's what I would tell myself, and that's the advice I would give today's 16-year-olds. Even if you think you're not going to be good at it and you really want to try it and it's your passion, go for it.
Absolutely. No, do we have any questions from any of the classes for Cary? If you have any questions, you can obviously put in the chat box as well. Cary, is there any pieces of information you want to leave any of the students today, just based off of what you think they should really hear today to have a takeaway?
I think if anyone is interested in a career in law, I think there's still a lot of opportunity. In recent years, many people have gone to law school, and the market has become a little saturated. However, if you're really passionate about doing something, you'll find your space. But I would say, and I'm sure all of these students know better, but I would say don't follow the law career path because you think you're going to make a lot of money. You might, but there's no guarantees. So as with any career path, I would say don't follow this career path unless it's truly your passion. You really feel like this is what you want to do. And if you really feel strongly about something, success will follow. But I would say, again, as with any job, don't do it because it's what you think you should do or what, you know, your parents will be proud of you for doing. Really think about what you want and what you think your strengths are and what you would enjoy.
Cary, thank you so much for your time and insight to answering all those questions. Really appreciate it. And
My
so
pleasure.
without any other questions, we will let you go. Thank you. And then our next interview will be at 11 o'clock with Weston Jackson from South End Community Center in Springfield.